Hey, what's up? It's Jake from Nimbus DevOps, and we are about to do some real world stuff with Python. So, I'm going to start this out by working with files and directories. So, when it comes to files and directories, Python has a ton of tools, and they're very useful. In particular, I'll write out a script here that will leverage a couple different modules that you'll be reading and writing, using to read and write onto a disk, which we will be using a file which contains an excerpt of text and then doing some stuff with it. So let's try some stuff out. So we're gonna open a file in Python that's very simple and intuitive. Just the way that you do it is pretty intuitive, and you just need to know the open function. So let's make a text file first. Let me make a text file, and we're just gonna call this fear.txt. And I'm gonna pause this video and go grab some text. Okay, so Fear is a book by an author. I do not know how to pronounce the name, so I'm not going to try to, but it's just a guinea pig that I'm going to use for an example. There's a whole bunch of text here. It's just this big excerpt of text. So I have this file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say fh equals open. I'm going to use the open function. And inside open, I'm going to tell it what I want to open. So fear.txt. And I'm going to tell it what I want to do with it. So rt. This is what this means is the R is read and the T is text. Okay. And I'm going to say for line in fh dot, and then I want it to read the lines, read lines. What do I want to do? Let's print line dot strip and then close the file. So I'm going to open the file, and then for every line, I'm going to read the line and strip the line out, and then I'm going to close the file. So this is pretty simple, right? We call open, we pass the file name, and then we're telling open that we want to read it in text mode. There's no path information before the file name. Therefore, open will assume the file is in the same folder that the script is run from, which it is right here. And this means if we run this script in any other directory, it won't be found because it won't be able to find the fear. So you have to make sure that this location is correct. Once the file's been opened, we obtain, excuse me, a file object back fh, which we can use to work on the content of the file. So remember, everything in Python is an object. So we're opening this file and then taking the contents and assigning it to an object fh. So now I have an object and I can do things with it, right? So in this case, we use the readLines method to iterate over all the lines in the file and we print them. We call strip on each line to get rid of any extra spaces around the content, including line termination characters at the end, since print will already add one for us. And this is just a quick and dirty solution that works, but should the content of the file contain meaningful spaces that need to be preserved, you'll have to be slightly more careful in how you sanitize the data. And at the end of the script, we just close the stream. So closing is very important because you don't want to risk falling or failing to release the handle that you have on it. When that happens, you can encounter issues like memory leaks or the annoying "you can't delete this file" pop up that informs you like that something's using it. So you need to apply some precautions and wrap that previous logic in. We can do it in like a try finally block. That way, whatever error might occur when we try to open and read the file, you can know that it's going to close it just in case. So before I even run this, I'm going to go ahead and do this just in case. So before this, I'm going to add this try, and I'm going to just indent this. And then at the end, I'm going to say finally, and then we can close. So just this is it's a very safe, very easy way to do this. Okay. Um, there's other ways to do this. Um, so we can take a look at that too, but we can simplify this a little bit and just say, okay, I have this open. I don't even need this read text thing. I can just say, hey, open this, open. sphere.txt, and then try, and then I can just say for line in FH, right, and iterate directly on FH, and then print line strip and then close. So RT is the default mode for opening files, so you don't need to specify it. And you can simply iterate on the FH object without explicitly calling read lines. Python is nice in that it gives you some shorthands to make your code simpler and easier to read. Everything we've been using produces like a print on the of the file in the console, and so that's really all it's going to do. So like for this, we'll go ahead and run it and see what happens. Bam, there you go. It just prints it out, and that's it. So there's another way to do this that I'll throw in here as a bonus at the end. And look how much code this is like nothing. And we were able to open a file, read the file, mess with the lines, and then close the file. Super easy. But we're able to now start messing around with files instead of just printing lines and doing stuff with that output. But you can also use a context manager to open a file. So the prospect of having to disseminate your code with try finally blocks is really not one of the best, right? So Python, as usual, gives you a much nicer way to open a file in a secure fashion using a context manager. So let's look at this code. So let's say I just want to comment out what we've done so far, and we can just compare the two. So I can just say with open fear.txt, fear.txt, as fh for line in fh, print line.strip, just like that. And that's a context manager. So I have with open as this in this context, and then iterate through it, iterate through that object and strip the lines. Now, what happens if I run this? The exact same thing. So this example is equivalent to this one right here. And it reads a lot better. The open function is capable of producing a file object when invoked by a context manager. But the real cool part of this is that it lies in the close part. Um, the close method is called automatically, even if there's an error. So you don't have to do try finally. You can just have this and be done. And I have 3 lines of code, and it handles everything for you. So that is an example of how to open and read a file. And in the next video, we're going to look at reading and writing to a file.